Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. This evening, let us explore the 8th of 21 passages of the meditation classic, Great Garuda in Flight, penned oh so many centuries ago by the great Buddhist reformer, Prahe Vajra. Without existing, it is not non-existent. Inner reality manifests as an absence. This is an editing opportunity. Please bear with me. Let's make sure it's still fitting on the page. Cowabunga. And continue. Emptiness is not empty. It abides in the dimension of emptiness. Awareness arises from the nature of the open space. Without even wishing for it, one attains the bliss that is already free from any activity. As they say on South Park, what? Without existing, it is not non-existent. This echoes an idea put on paper hundreds and hundreds of miles away. This was written in the Swat Valley of Pakistan. However, in China, the same thought was being committed to paper. This, of course, reminds me of Carl Gustav Jung's teachings on the collective unconscious, that when an idea is ready, it comes through whatever spigot is open. So, what does this mean here? Without existing, it is not non-existent. Inner reality manifests as an absence. Let us cut through what might very much look like pseudo-spiritual devil talk. To do that, I'm going to switch screens to a set of visual aids. Now, both this teaching text and these visual aids are available for free as PDFs. Everything I do is free. I'm not smart enough to have an agenda. I was raised, perhaps you were too, to think that if it is to be, it is up to me, and I got to be a go-getter. Were you told to be a go-getter? I was told to be focused and to be analytical. Imagine my surprise when I learned that neuroscience tells us that relying on focus and analysis will exhaust the front part of our brain, inducing us to present with symptoms of depression, no less triggering our amygdala, the seat of cowardice and crankiness and competitiveness. Fortunately, neither the amygdala nor the prefrontal cortex constitute the entirety of our central nervous system. Consider, if you will, the humble spinal cord, known as our autonomic nervous system. But it was nicknamed the seat of our Buddha nature. Why? Why is that? Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we are wired to automatically access the middle bit of our spinal cord, contemporarily known as the sympathetic nervous system, which has evolved to help us to notice in a very special way, to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly, to notice mind's antics of seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like, including the full spectrum of human emotions, intentions, cognitions, recollections, and imaginings, which include all manner of phenomena, from the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the glorious to the grotesque. But what are we to do with all that which we notice? Every time we exhale, we have evolved in such a manner that we automatically access the end bits of our spinal cord, kind of like bookends on a shelf, not entirely full. Known as the parasympathetic nervous system, helps us to physically relax and mentally release to such a degree that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, and less defining. Yeah, that's all well and fine. But what about this non-existing existence and stuff like that we were talked about during the opening text? Consider this. All complex life forms on this planet evolved to think symbolically. First, they perceived, and then they began recalling past perceptions and anticipating future perceptions, and lo and behold, the essence of cognition came about. We should therefore not be too surprised to find that figures of speech are used in every human culture. Are there figures of speech used for meditation? As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Now, a simile is only as effective as it is relatable. Therefore, we have to ask the question, what? What is a real-world example of a non-graspable, vast empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although could look tantalizing to the eye, feels non-graspable to the hand? And so emptiness is nothing mystical, it is nothing magical. It's something we are already wired to taste with every exhalation, like the pendulum in a grandfather clock, swinging to the left and swinging to the right. Swinging back and forth. We are wired to notice and to relax in harmony with each fluctuation of our breath. Bearing that in mind, let's return to the opening lesson. Without existing, it is not non-existent. Let's take something I can relate to. I spent my life sitting on the floor. I have a shit ton of arthritis. So as I relax into my exhalation, whatever pain I noticed during my previous inhalation fleetingly feels like it doesn't exist. But during my next inhalation, I cannot help but that which felt non-existent is now not non-existent. This is a deliciously playful reference to the teachings of the great South Indian Buddhist philosopher Nagarjuna, who taught of the conventional and the ultimate. and how we plug into the conventional as we breathe in, and how we relax into the ultimate as we breathe out, and they are both necessary. Far too often people get very, very excited. They read too many Mahayana texts, they take them literally, and they become incapable of forming complete sentences. Emptiness was never to be taken literally. It's figurative. It's a temporary, figurative phenomena that comes and goes naturally. It doesn't have to be chased. It doesn't have to be fled from. It's just a tool. The author reiterates this in the second couplet. Inner reality manifests as an absence. What do we mean by inner reality? Everything is inner reality. Our brain is in the dark. Its organs of perception are not literal windows. They are sensory input devices connected through organic wiring. Although our brain sits in the dark, suspended in fluid, it experiences indirectly sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. And yet, each exhalation we are wired to let go of it. As if it was just a puff of smoke on a stage in the middle of a magician's act. Emptiness is not empty. It abides in the dimension of emptiness. It is our task not to take anything too seriously, even emptiness. So we don't want to be attached to non-attachment. Pretty ironic, eh, kids? How do we do that? How do we walk this tightrope? Yeah, good question. We have a choice. We can be active or we can be passive. We can actively fight against our autonomic nervous system, or we can passively, we can cooperate with it vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, fleetingly. Those are fine sounding words, but how are we to apply them? Here is the easiest way. I'm brain damaged, lazy bastard. I gotta use stuff that works when I can't think straight, when I'm in too much physical pain or too much mental turmoil. And it turns out I'm not the only one. This is the secret teaching that shouldn't be secret, but it is. The key to mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the verb watch each time we feel our chest swell as we inhale. The key to meditation is to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb rest each time we feel our chest sink in exhalation. It's just that simple. As we breathe in, as we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation feels less defiant. To a degree, momentarily. And then, boom, it's in our face again. You see, the purpose, we evolved the capacity for this practice. not to hide from reality, because that would run contrary to survival. Evolution is governed by reproduction and anything that supports reproduction. Getting mauled by a bear probably will not help us to pass on our genetic material. So, to paraphrase the physicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, it seems as if the universe is trying to kill us. There are lots of things to traumatize us, or to borrow a phrase from William Shakespeare, the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. We evolved the capacity to notice and relax in harmony with our breathing, to cope with the many overt and subtle traumas rain down upon us, circumstantially, physically, and interpersonally, and mentally. I have survived horrible encounters with abusive people. Some of them are no longer alive, but still they haunt the corridors of my memory and my imagination. That is not a flaw, that is a feature that helps us to learn from mistakes to increase our likelihood of survival. But it's not a convenient one. It's not a comfortable one. And so I tell you from firsthand experience that whether it's a mental pain or physical pain, these techniques help us to cope. Awareness arises from the nature of open space. The translator is fond of prepositions. Without even wishing for it, one attains the bliss that is already free from any activity. We are wired. So there is a great, well, let me go back to the visual aids. Oops, wrong button. Let's fix that again. Let's tap button 9. Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks. 10% of us traverse the path of wisdom, traverse the path of being flexible, loving, rational, laid-back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. That's Jim Dandy. But all of us were born to stumble upon the path of foolishness and competition. And it's not till we've had some bumps and bruises that we evolve. Some evolve, many do not. 90% do not. 90% of humans, including meditation teachers, stomp about insisting that it's great to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. These are the people who tell us that we should focus actively on one thing or on no things. And when we notice things, sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings, well, that is shameful. That's horrible. That's an indictment somehow that we're not truly spiritual and must be repressed. Malarkey. No. We're being taught, not only by the Buddha, but by this teacher Prahe Vajra, is that awareness is not only okay, it is required. Biologically, it is required for our survival. Psychologically, it is required for us to thrive. We must be vulnerable to everything. The pleasurable, the painful, the interesting, the boring, the glorious, and the grotesque. The fools will tell us we must scrape and suffer and strive to have a crumb of bliss. But the wise tell us no, simply by cooperating with our autonomic nervous system, we have bliss on tap. Sometimes it's coarse, sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's very subtle. In the midst of difficulty, in the midst of pain, in the midst of stress, it's there. It doesn't make things go away. But just as Juliana Drew's saying of a spoonful of sugar helping the medicine go down, bliss is available. There are people who stomp and snort and insist that we can't be happy without riches and power and beauty and fame and 1,001 erotic nights. Those things might be lovely, but they are not mandatory. We can find peace and fulfillment simply on the path, by traversing the path of mindfulness and meditation. For doing so helps us to involuntarily experience kind intention, kind communication, kind conduct, and kind commerce. Simply cooperating with our autonomic nervous system not only calms the cowardice and crankiness and competitiveness of our amygdala, but it gently stimulates the anterior cingulate gyrus, which functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy, that which helps us to be content and compassionate and cooperative, the key to deep fulfillment. No wrong button. I'm having some trouble here. Let's go over here. See what's going on. Okay. Without even wishing for it, one attains the bliss that is already free from any activity. We do not earn bliss through austerity. We do not earn bliss through perfectionism. We do not earn bliss through the duality of shoving at some things and reaching for others. Bliss is already hardwired into our central nervous system. And the spigot of its tap is simply passively cooperating with our own autonomic nervous system. Having completed this evening's opening lesson, we can now shift gears. It is Obi-Wan Kenobi Wednesday evening. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi after about 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is the Dzogchen Sende Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I have harnessed my autistic special interests as well as my ADHD hyperfocus to spend about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I could become your personal, nerdy, neurodivergent guide to nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to meditate like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. For the remainder of this evening's live stream, let's simply sit in mindfulness and meditation. Now, if you are prone to arthritis like myself, I invite you to gently adjust your legs every 15 minutes or so. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or philosophy, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window. For I tend to check for questions about every 5 minutes or so. The most efficient way to practice mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the verb watch each time we feel our chest swell with breath. The most efficient way for us to practice meditation is for us to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb rest each time we feel our chest sink with exhalation. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's morning meditation class and group practice. And, whoopsie, if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.